Captain John Martinez stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the alien world grow larger on the main screen. After 8 months of travel through space, they had finally reached their destination. The planet looked beautiful from orbit, with blue oceans and green continents that reminded him of Earth. "Sir, we're getting a signal from the surface," said Communications Officer Lisa Thompson. She was the best language expert they had brought on this mission. Her job was to help them talk to the aliens they were about to meet for the first time. "Put it through," Martinez ordered. He straightened his uniform and tried to look confident. This was the most important moment in human history. They were about to make contact with their first alien civilization. The screen flickered and showed a tall, strange creature. It looked like it was made of blue crystal and had 4 arms instead of 2. When it spoke, the translation computer turned its words into English. "Welcome, small ones," the alien said. "I am Ambassador Kefzar of the Zephyrian Empire. We are pleased that you have finally learned to travel between the stars. It is amazing that your species has come so far since you first discovered fire." Martinez felt confused by the alien's words. Humans had been using fire for hundreds of thousands of years, not recently. But he decided to be polite. "Thank you for welcoming us, Ambassador. I am Captain John Martinez of Earth. We come in peace and hope to learn about your people." Kefzar made a sound that the computer said was laughter. "How charming. Yes, we will teach you many things. Please bring your ship to our flagship. We have prepared a great feast to celebrate this meeting." Dr. Kevin Wright, their science officer, looked worried. He had been studying the alien ships through their sensors. "Captain, their technology is far ahead of ours. Some of those ships are bigger than our entire space stations back home." "I know," Martinez said quietly. "But we have to try to make friends with them. This could change everything for humanity." The New Horizon docked with the massive Zephyrian ship. Martinez brought a small team with him. Dr. Thompson to help with translation, Dr. Wright to study their science, and Marine Sergeant Tony Rodriguez for protection. They all wore their best uniforms and carried gifts from Earth. The inside of the alien ship was huge. The ceilings were very high, and everything seemed to be made of the same blue crystal as the aliens themselves. Kefzar met them at the airlock with several other Zephyrians. They were all tall and moved in a way that reminded Martinez of spiders. "Welcome aboard the Star Hunter," Kefzar said. "Come, we have much to show you." They walked through long hallways filled with strange art and decorations. Dr. Wright kept looking around with wide eyes, trying to understand the alien technology. Some of the walls seemed to glow with their own light, and the air smelled like metal and ozone. The feast hall was enormous. Hundreds of Zephyrians sat at long tables, eating foods that the humans did not recognize. The noise was very loud, with clicking and whistling sounds that the translation computer could not turn into words. "Please sit," Kefzar said, pointing to a small table that had been set up for the humans. "We have prepared special food that your kind can eat safely." As they ate, Kefzar began to tell them about the Zephyrian Empire. They controlled 12 star systems and had been traveling in space for over 2,000 years. They had met many other alien species and ruled over most of them. "We have learned that the galaxy is full of different types of creatures," Kefzar explained. "There are the builders, like us, who create great civilizations. There are the workers, who serve the builders. And there are the animals, who exist only to provide food and entertainment." Dr. Thompson shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "What do you mean by animals?" "Oh, you know." Kefzar waved one of his 4 hands. "Creatures that walk on 2 or 4 legs, use simple tools, but have no real intelligence. We keep many different kinds on our hunting worlds. Some taste better than others." The humans looked at each other with growing alarm. Martinez tried to keep his voice steady. Hunting worlds? Yes, wonderful places where we go to relax and hunt for sport. We have planets full of different creatures. Some fight back, which makes the hunt more exciting. Others just run, which is good exercise. For our young warriors, Kethzar's eyes seem to shine brighter. We have some that look almost like you, actually. 2 arms, 2 legs, soft skin. They make excellent prey because they are clever enough to hide, but not strong enough to fight back. Sergeant Rodriguez's hand moved slowly toward his weapon, but Martinez gave him a small shake of the head. They were surrounded by hundreds of aliens on their own ship. Fighting now would be suicide. Doctor Wright cleared his throat. Ambassador, on our world, we believe that all intelligent life has value. We do not hunt other thinking beings for sport. The entire hall went quiet. Every Zephyrian was now looking at their table. Then Kethzar began to laugh, a sound like breaking glass. Soon all the other aliens were laughing too. "Oh, that is very funny," Kethzar said, wiping tears from his crystal eyes. "You speak of these food animals as if they think like us. Next you will tell us that the creatures in our farms have feelings and dreams." "But they do," Dr. Thompson said firmly. "Any creature that can use tools, communicate, and solve problems is intelligent. They deserve to live free." The laughter stopped. Kethzar looked at the humans with what might have been confusion. "You actually believe this? How strange. But then, you are still very primitive. You have only just learned to leave your home world. In time, you will understand how the galaxy really works." Another Zephyrian, larger than the others, stood up from a nearby table. "Perhaps these little ones need to learn their place," he said in a voice like grinding stone. "I am War Master Valtar. I challenge the strongest of these creatures to combat, so they can see the difference between hunters and prey." Martinez felt his heart start beating faster. This was going very wrong, very quickly. But before he could speak, Sergeant Rodriguez stood up. "I accept your challenge," the Marine said calmly. The hall erupted in excited clicking and whistling. Kethzar clapped his hands together. "Excellent. This will be most entertaining. Do not worry, little humans. We will make sure your warrior dies quickly and with honor." As the aliens began making preparations for the fight, Martinez realized that humanity had just learned something terrible about the galaxy. They were not meeting friendly neighbors who wanted to trade and share knowledge. They had found a civilization of predators who saw other intelligent beings as nothing more than animals to be hunted and eaten. And now one of his men was about to fight for his life against a creature that was twice his size and had natural weapons. Martinez just hoped that Tony Rodriguez knew what he was doing, because the future of humanity might depend on what happened in the next few hours. The combat arena was huge, with seats rising up on all sides like a giant bowl. Hundreds of Zephyrians filled the seats, clicking and whistling with excitement. They had never seen a creature like Tony Rodriguez before, and they were eager to watch their champion tear him apart. Rodriguez stood in the center of the arena, looking very small. He wore his standard military uniform and carried only basic equipment. No weapons, no armor, just what a human soldier normally had with him. The aliens had laughed when they saw how little protection he wore. War-Master Valtar entered from the opposite side of the arena. He was nearly 8 feet tall and covered in thick crystal plates that looked like natural armor. His 4 arms ended in razor-sharp claws that could cut through metal. When he moved, the ground shook under his weight. "Look at the tiny creature," Valtar called out to the crowd. "It has no claws, no armor, no natural weapons at all. This will be over in moments." The Zephyrians cheered and began placing bets. Most of them were betting on how quickly their champion would win. Some thought it would take less than 10 seconds. Others were more generous and said maybe 30 seconds. Captain Martinez sat with the other humans in a special viewing area. His hands were clenched into fists, but he tried to look calm. Dr. Thompson and Dr. Wright looked terrified. They all knew that if Rodriguez lost, it would prove to the aliens that humans were weak prey animals. "Begin," announced Kefzar Frum. His high seat .VEL tar charged forward with a roar that shook the arena. His massive feet pounded the ground as he ran straight at Rodriguez with all 4 claws extended. The crowd cheered, expecting to see the human crushed in seconds. But Rodriguez did something the aliens did not expect. Instead of running away or trying to block the attack, he stepped to the side at the last moment. Veltar rushed past him, his claws cutting through empty air. The crowd went quiet for a moment. They had expected the fight to be over already. Veltar turned around, confused. He charged again, this time swinging his claws in wide arcs to cover more space. But Rodriguez ducked under the attack and rolled away, ending up behind the alien. "Warrior, stand still and fight," Veltar growled. Rodriguez did not answer. He kept moving, always staying just out of reach of the alien's claws. Sometimes he would jump over a low swing. Sometimes he would slide under a high one. He moved like a dancer, but Martinez could see the method behind it. Rodriguez was studying his opponent, learning how he moved and fought. The Zephyrians began to get restless. This was not the quick, brutal fight they had expected. Some began to boo and demand more action. VE Liltar was getting angry. He had been fighting for several minutes now and had not even touched the human. He began to attack faster and wilder, using all 4 arms at once in a storm of claws and crystal fists. Rodriguez kept dodging, but now he was doing something else too. Every time Veltar missed, the human would strike back with quick hits to the alien's joints and weak spots. The hits were not powerful enough to cause real damage, but they added up over time. Dr. Wright leaned over to Martinez. "Look at how." "He's breathing," the scientist whispered. "Rodriguez is barely tired, but that alien is starting to slow down." It was true. Veltar's attacks were becoming slower and less accurate. The thick crystal armor that protected him also made him heavy, and he was not used to fighting an opponent who would not stand still. His breathing became loud and harsh. Rodriguez, on the other hand, looked like he could keep going for hours. He had trained for this kind of fighting his whole life. Not against aliens, but against human enemies who were bigger and stronger than him. He knew how to make his opponent tired while saving his own energy. The crowd was no longer cheering. They watched in growing confusion as their champion began to struggle against the small human. This was not how fights were supposed to go. The stronger warrior was supposed to win quickly. "What is happening?" one Zephyrian called out. "Why does the prey animal not die?" Kefzar looked worried. This was not going according to plan. Rodriguez waited until Veltar made a particularly wild swing that left him off balance. Then the human struck, not with his fists, but with his whole body. He grabbed the alien's arm and used Veltar's own weight against him. Throwing the massive warrior to the ground, the arena went completely silent. Veltar tried to get up, but Rodriguez was already on top of him. The human had found a piece of broken crystal from the arena floor and was holding it like a knife. He pressed it against Veltar's throat, right at the spot where the crystal armor did not cover. "Yield," Rodriguez said quietly. Veltar looked up at the human with shock in his eyes. This tiny creature had defeated him. It was impossible, but it had happened. "I yield," the alien warrior whispered. Rodriguez stood up and stepped back. He was breathing hard, but not exhausted. He looked around at the silent crowd, then up at the viewing area where the human delegation sat. Captain Martinez stood up. He knew this was his chance to explain what had just happened. The aliens needed to understand that they had made a mistake about humanity. "Ambassador Cathzar," Martinez called out, "you asked us to show you the difference between hunters and prey. I think we have done that, but how?" Cathzar asked. "Your warrior is small and weak. He has no natural weapons. How did he defeat our champion?" Dr. Wright stood up next to Martinez. "Because you do not understand what humans are. You think strength and size make a creature dangerous. But you are wrong. Our world is much more dangerous than yours," Martinez continued. "We did not evolve to be the biggest or strongest creatures on our planet. We evolved to be the smartest and most persistent. We learned to hunt animals much larger than ourselves by working together and never giving up. A human can run for hours without stopping," Dr. Wright explained. "We can go without food or water longer than most creatures. We can adapt to any environment. And most importantly, we never stop learning and improving." Rodriguez picked up the crystal shard he had used as a weapon. "This is what makes us dangerous. We can turn anything into a tool or weapon. We can learn our enemy's weaknesses and use them against them. We do not need claws or armor because we have something better." "What is that?" Veltar asked from the arena floor. "Intelligence," Rodriguez replied, "and the will to keep fighting no matter what." The arena remained silent for a long moment. Then Cathzar spoke, his voice much quieter than before. "Perhaps we have made an error in judgment about your species." Martinez nodded. "Yes, I think you have. We came here seeking friendship and trade. But if you see us as prey animals, then you have made a very dangerous mistake." "What do you mean?" Cathzar asked. "Because," Martinez said, looking directly at the alien, "Ambassador, humans are not prey. We are the hunters." As the humans were escorted back to their ship, the Zephyrians began to whisper among themselves. They had learned something disturbing today. These small, soft creatures from the distant world called Earth were not what they appeared to be. For the first time in their long history, the Zephyrians wondered if they had encountered something more dangerous than themselves. Word of the fight spread quickly through Zephyrian space. Within days, every ship captain and military commander had heard the story. A small human warrior had defeated their greatest champion in single combat. But instead of taking this as a warning, most Zephyrians saw it as an exciting challenge. War Master Grix Volume sat in his command center on the Zephyrian military world of Keth Prime. He was the supreme commander of all Zephyrian forces, and he had been listening to reports about the humans for hours. The story made him angry, but not because he was afraid. He was angry because one of his warriors had been embarrassed by a prey animal. "These humans think they are clever," Grix Volume said to his officers. "They won one fight, and now they believe they are dangerous. We will show them what real power looks like." His second-in-command, Fleet Admiral Zektar, nodded agreement. "Should we send a small force to capture their homeworld, War Master?" "No," Grix Volume replied. "We will make this a grand hunt. Every ship, every warrior, every weapon we have. We will crush these humans so completely that no other species will ever dare to challenge us again." Back on Earth, Captain Martinez was giving his report to the United Earth Defense Council. The meeting room was filled with the most important military and political leaders of humanity. Admiral Karan Peterson, the head of Earth Space Forces, listened with a grim expression as Martinez described what they had learned. "So they see us as animals," General Alex Murphy said. "And now they think we're dangerous animals that need to be put down." "That's right," Martinez replied. Ambassador Cathzar tried to be diplomatic about it, but the message was clear. They believe we are a threat to their way of life. Dr. Susan Blake, Earth's top intelligence analyst, stood up with a data pad in her hands. "We've been monitoring their communications since the New Horizon returned. They're mobilizing their entire military. Over 3,000 ships, including their biggest battleships. The room went quiet. Earth's entire space navy had less than 200 ships, and most of them were small patrol vessels or cargo haulers. "When will they arrive?" Admiral Peterson asked. "Our computers estimate 6 to 8 weeks," Dr. Blake replied. "They're gathering. Forces from all over their empire." General Murphy shook his head. "We can't fight that many ships directly. Our technology is centuries behind theirs." "Then we don't fight them directly," Admiral Peterson said. "We fight them the way humans have. Always fought when outnumbered and outgunned." Meanwhile, the first Zephyrian ships had already reached the outer edge of human space. Fleet Commander Yexmal led a small advance force of 50 ships. His job was to attack the human colonies and prepare the way for the main fleet. The first target was New Boston, a farming colony with only 30,000 people. Yexmal expected the humans to surrender as soon as they saw his ships, just like every other species the Zephyrians had conquered. But colony administrator Jake Stevens had other plans. As soon as the alien ships appeared on the sensors, he activated the emergency protocols that Earth Command had sent to every human settlement. "All civilians to the evacuation tunnels," Stevens announced over the colony's communication system. "Military personnel, begin scorched earth procedures." The Zephyrians were confused when they arrived at New Boston to find the colony apparently abandoned. The streets were empty, the buildings were dark, and there was no response to their demands for surrender. "Where are they?" Yexmal asked his officers. "The scanners show this place had thousands of inhabitants." Before anyone could answer, explosions began going off all over the colony. The humans had booby-trapped everything. Power plants, communication towers, food storage facilities, even the landing pads. Everything was destroyed in a series of carefully planned blasts. By the time the Zephyrians landed troops to investigate, there was nothing left but rubble. The humans had vanished like ghosts, taking everything useful with them and destroying everything else. "They destroyed their own colony," Yexmal said in disbelief. "What kind of creatures destroy their own homes rather than surrender?" The same thing happened at the next 3 colonies the Zephyrians attacked. Every time, the humans disappeared before the aliens could capture them, leaving behind only ruins and empty buildings. But the real surprise came when the Zephyrians attacked Kepler Station, a mining outpost that was supposed to be lightly defended. Marine Colonel Amy Foster commanded the defense, and she had no intention of running away. The Zephyrians landed their troops expecting another easy victory. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. Human soldiers would attack from hidden positions, kill several aliens, then disappear before the Zephyrians could fight back. Colonel Foster had studied the intelligence reports from the New Horizon carefully. She knew that Zephyrians were strong and tough, but they were also slow and predictable. They fought like hunters, expecting their prey to either run away or fight back in obvious ways. But humans had learned to fight different kinds of wars. Her soldiers used the mining tunnels to move around unseen. They set traps and ambushes. They attacked supply lines and communication posts. Most importantly, they never stayed in one place long enough for the aliens to bring their superior firepower to bear. "Where are they?" the Zephyrian ground commander demanded over the radio. "Our sensors show humans all around us, but every time we attack, they're gone." Foster smiled as she listened to the aliens' frustrated communications. Her teams had been jamming and intercepting Zephyrian signals for days. They knew exactly where every alien unit was and what they were planning. "Delta Team, this is Colonel Foster," she whispered into her radio. "The enemy is sending a patrol to Sector 7. Set up an ambush at the narrow passage." "Roger that." "Colonel, we'll be ready." The Zephyrians had expected to conquer Kepler Station in a few hours. Instead, They found themselves trapped in a maze of tunnels and passages, fighting an enemy that struck without warning and vanished like smoke. After 3 days of fighting, Yexmal pulled his forces back to their ships. They had lost over 200 warriors and had nothing to show for it. The mining station was still in human hands. This is not how prey animals are supposed to fight, Yexmal reported to War Master Grixval. They do not stand and face us honorably. They hide and strike from the shadows like cowards. Then we will burn them out, Grixval replied. The main fleet will arrive soon. We will destroy every human world from orbit and end this foolishness. But as the Zephyrian commander spoke, he did not know that human ships were already moving through his empire's space. They were not big warships like the aliens expected. They were small, fast scouts that looked like harmless cargo vessels. Commander Rachel Stone sat in the pilot's seat of one such ship, the civilian freighter Lucky Strike. Her crew of 12 looked like ordinary merchants and traders. But they were actually some of Earth's most skilled Special Forces soldiers. Approaching the Zephyrian Supply Depot, reported her navigator, Lieutenant Paul Carter. No sign that they've detected us. Good, Stone replied. Remember, we're not here to destroy anything. We're here to learn. We need to know everything about how their military works. As the Lucky Strike docked at the alien facility, Stone's team prepared to begin the most dangerous mission in human history. They were going to infiltrate the Zephyrian Empire and learn its secrets from the inside. While the aliens prepared for their grand hunt, humanity was preparing a hunt of their own, and the Zephyrians had no idea what was coming for them. 6 months had passed since the fighting began. War Master Grixval stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the tactical display with growing frustration. His forces controlled several human colonies, but the cost had been terrible. Zephyrians had lost over 5,000 warriors, and their supply lines were constantly under attack by human raiders. War Master, his communications officer, called out, "We are receiving reports of system failures across the Empire. Power grids are going down on Zephyr 7. The shipyards on Keth Prime have stopped working. Even our home world is having problems with their communication networks." Grixval slammed his fist on the command console. How is this possible? These humans only have a few dozen ships. They cannot be everywhere at once. But that was exactly what the humans were doing. For 6 months, small teams of human infiltrators had been living throughout Zephyrian space. They looked like traders, mechanics, and refugees from the war zones. The Zephyrians paid no attention to them because they seemed harmless and weak. Commander Rachel Stone sat in a maintenance tunnel, deep inside the main Zephyrian military base on Keth Prime. She had been working as a janitor in the facility for 3 months. The aliens never suspected that the quiet human woman who cleaned their floors was actually recording every conversation, mapping every security system, and identifying every weakness in their defenses. "Stone to all teams," she whispered into her hidden communicator. "Operation Long Hunt is a go. Begin Phase 1. Across the Zephyrian Empire, human agents received the same message. They had been waiting for this moment, studying their targets, and preparing for coordinated strikes that would happen at exactly the same time. Lieutenant Paul Carter was working in a Zephyrian factory that built ship engines. He had spent months learning how their technology worked. Now he quietly placed small devices throughout the facility. The devices would not explode or cause obvious damage. Instead, they would make tiny changes in the manufacturing process that would cause the engines to fail after a few weeks of use. Engineer Maria Gonzalez had been living on a communication station that connected dozens of star systems. She had learned to read and understand Zephyrian data systems. With a few careful adjustments to their computers, she could redirect messages, jam signals, and make it impossible for Zephyrian commanders to talk to each other. Back on Earth, Admiral Peterson watched the operation unfold from the command center. Dozens of screens showed the status of human teams throughout Zephyrian space. Each team had a specific mission designed to paralyze the alien military without causing unnecessary deaths. Intelligence reports that the Zephyrian main fleet is preparing to attack Earth directly, General Murphy announced. Over 2,000 ships. They plan to destroy our home world and end the war. Let them come, Admiral Peterson replied. By the time they get here, they'll have bigger problems to worry about. She was right. As the Zephyrian fleet prepared for their final assault, their empire began to fall apart. Communication networks failed, leaving commanders unable to coordinate their forces. Supply ships broke down in space when their engines failed. Manufacturing facilities stopped working as critical components wore out faster than they could be replaced. War Master Grix Volume found himself trapped aboard his flagship as system after system began to malfunction. His engines were running at half power. His weapons targeting systems kept shutting down for no reason. Even the life support systems were having problems. "What is happening to my ship?" he demanded from his engineers. "We don't know, War Master," the chief engineer replied. "Everything seems normal, but nothing works properly. It's like the ship is fighting against us." The truth was that human boarding parties had been infiltrating Zephyrian ships for months. They moved through the ventilation systems and maintenance tunnels that the large aliens could not fit into. They placed small devices throughout each ship that would cause problems at exactly the right moment. Lieutenant Commander Nick Taylor led one such boarding party aboard Grixval's flagship. His team of 6 soldiers had been living in the ship's lower decks for 2 weeks, slowly taking control of critical systems. They had not tried to destroy anything. Instead, they had simply made it impossible for the aliens to use their own ship effectively. "Taylor to Admiral Peterson," he whispered into his radio. "We have control of the enemy flagship's navigation system, ready to execute final phase." "Proceed, Commander," Peterson replied. Taylor's team began the last part of their mission. They took control of the ship's internal communication system and began broadcasting a message throughout the Zephyrian fleet. Captain Martinez appeared on every screen in the alien fleet. The Zephyrians recognized him as the human commander they had first met months ago, but now he looked different, more confident, more dangerous. "War Master Grixval," Martinez said calmly. "I believe you wanted to speak with us about surrender terms." Grixval stared at the screen in shock. "How are you broadcasting on my ship? This is impossible." "Nothing is impossible for humans," Martinez replied. "We have been inside your empire for months. We know everything about your technology, your military, your weaknesses. We could have destroyed everything, but we chose not to. We are not like you. We do not kill for sport." Around the flagship, other Zephyrian ships began reporting the same thing. Humans were aboard their vessels, controlling their systems, and broadcasting messages. The prey animals had somehow become the hunters. "Your empire is paralyzed," Martinez continued. "Your ships cannot fight effectively. Your supply lines are broken. Your communication networks are down. And all of this was done by a few hundred humans who have been living among you, learning from you, and preparing for this moment." War Master Grixval felt something he had never experienced before: fear. These small, weak creatures had outmaneuvered his entire military without firing a shot. They had turned his own empire against him. "What do you want?" Grixval asked. "First, you will end the attacks on human colonies immediately," Martinez replied. "Second, you will free all the species you keep on your hunting worlds. Third, you will help us contact other civilizations in the galaxy so we can establish peaceful relations with them." "And if we refuse?" Martinez smiled. but it was not a friendly expression. Then you will learn what humans are really capable of when we stop being nice. We have been holding back, War Master. We came to your space seeking friendship. We fought your attacks with restraint. We infiltrated your empire without killing unless necessary. But if you force us to become true predators, you will not survive the experience. Quick's volume looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him, waiting for orders. But what orders could he give? His ships barely functioned. His empire was falling apart. And somewhere in the darkness of space, human ships were moving closer to finish what they had started. We accept your terms. Crick's volume said quietly. Ambassador Kethzar appeared on another screen. He looked older and more tired than when the humans had first met him. Captain Martinez, I formally request a meeting to discuss peace terms. We have learned that we made a terrible mistake about your species. Yes, you did, Martinez replied. You thought we were prey animals. You thought intelligence meant having claws and armor and superior technology. But you were wrong. Real intelligence means understanding your enemy better than they understand themselves. It means patience, planning, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to protect your people. We understand now, Kethzar said. Humans are not prey. You are the apex predators. You hunt not with teeth and claws, but with minds and cooperation. You are the most dangerous species in the galaxy because you do not look dangerous until it is too late. 3 weeks later, representatives from dozens of alien species gathered at a space station in neutral territory. The Zephyrian Empire had kept the existence of many civilizations secret, using them as hunting stock for their entertainment. Now, for the first time, all these species could meet as equals. Captain Martinez stood before the assembly and spoke. For humanity, we came to the stars seeking friends and knowledge. We found predators who saw us as prey. But we also found that we were not alone in wanting freedom and peace. Today, we begin a new age for all our species. In the months that followed, the galaxy learned that Earth's newest children were indeed apex predators. But they were predators who hunted for justice, who stalked their enemies with patience and intelligence, and who protected the weak instead of consuming them. They were exactly the kind of predators the galaxy needed. And the Zephyrians, once the most feared hunters in known space, became the prey animals in their own empire, as dozens of liberated species demanded justice for centuries of abuse. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy was safer for it.